Commission. And Madam Clerk, do we have a full quorum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I've asked Matt Allen to lead us in the pledge and invocation.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Join me in prayer. Creator God, thank you for the many ways you've blessed Garden City. We petition your continued watch over this community, protect those who need your assistance, give strength to those who feel they need it, give comfort to those in despair. May the discussion today, the words that we say and the way we treat one another be acceptable in your sight. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Was there any additions or corrections to the April 2nd meeting? Everybody good? They stand approved as presented. At this time, we have public comment. This is for anyone that's not on the agenda that would like to speak to the commission. Just step forward and talk into the mic, and we'll give you 5 minutes or maybe a little longer. Okay?
Are you guys?
Pull it down.
My name is Karen Canales.
Pull it. Yeah.
Karen Canales with Live Well Finney County.
My name is Abby Merle, and I'm on the SGA Executive Board.
My name's Clara Jackson. I'm also on the SGA Executive Board.
Lauren Rockhold, Student Activities Coordinator and also a Garden City Community College SGA Advisor.
Yeah, so we are here today. Live Well is a nonprofit organization with a mission to improve the health, well-being, safety of all the people of Finney County by collaborating to build a better community. With that being said, we are here to invite you guys to a national traveling exhibit that we will be hosting in conjunction with SGA Garden City Community College. Send Silence Packing. That is through Active Minds, which is a nonprofit organization that promotes suicide awareness. This event is a national traveling exhibit that travels through the United States and stops at different universities and colleges. What they do is they will lay out over 1,000 backpacks on the quad at Garden City Community College, and each backpack will have a bio or a story of a person that has fallen victim to suicide. We are doing this through Live Well Finney County with the partnership of St. Catherine Hospital, Compass Behavioral Health, Genesis Family Health, and we are partnering with SGA Student Government Association at Garden City Community College. We are letting them take this project on as their own. The event will be Monday, May 6th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The event is open to the public. There is no charge. And so we are here to publicly invite you guys to come out and be part of this collaboration. And please know that it's a national traveling exhibit, that Garden City is the only stop in Kansas that this exhibit will be coming to.
Very good.
Yep.
Once again,
Thank you.
Monday.
Monday, May 6th from 10 to 6 p.m. in the quad of the campus at Garden City Community College. It is open to the public. SGA has been working very, very hard in reaching out to the different area high school people and coming out. And so we really want to invite everybody to the event. Once again, I cannot stress how important it is that it's a national traveling exhibit. We are the only stop in Kansas that this exhibit will be coming to. And if you guys want to go to activeminds.org, you guys can scroll down and you can see Garden City Community College on there.
Thanks for bringing it here.
Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Yeah, the awareness. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, moving on.
Item 6A, the governing body is asked to consider and allow the mayor to proclaim the week of May 5th through 11th, 2019 as Drinking Water Week in Garden City, Kansas.
I make the motion we approve the proclamation as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Drinking Water Week proclamation. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 6B, Benefit Health Advisor is requesting approval to create a proposal for presentation in the consideration of the 2020 Employee Medical Benefit Plan. There's a staff memo that gave you a little background, and if there's anybody present from Benefit Health Advisor, okay, scratch that. Ally will start. Sorry.
Yes, I have both Mark and Brian Hillier here to talk to you about Benefit Health Advisors.
Thanks. Yeah, so as it mentioned, Brian Hillier with Benefit Health Advisor. What we're really interested in doing and what we're asking the City Council to approve is to let us put together a proposal for you. We are a brokerage firm, but we're a little bit different in that we work with the local facilities and really working to get care to stay local. And so we've been in discussions with Centura Health, which owns St. Catherine's. In Kansas, we're actually doing this in 3 other cities with hospitals that they manage, and just want to be able to put together the proposal for you. So not looking to, are we committing to moving forward or not? Just want to be able to put together the proposal for you, get them involved. What we work with them on is on the higher cost items, is really controlling the cost. So doing a direct contract with them and the city to make sure that we're getting discounts above and beyond the PPO to control our high cost spend. In return, there's some advantages as well in working with the facility, getting feedback on what they need to improve. So from your end, that feedback, just really want to open that communication, but the way that we put it together is through a proposal of your medical plan.
As a commission earlier this year, we had a pretty extensive discussion in a pre-meeting about the the self-funded versus a fully insured model. Can you tell us why you think the self-funded model would be a fit for us without us having to give, just in a general sense, without looking at our more private data that I know we have some concerns about sharing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first thing that I'd say, we do represent from an insurance company standpoint. That's ultimately what we do, is we broker those services out. However, what I will tell you is, and if anyone disagrees, they can say so, insurance from a high level standpoint is a bad deal. The insurance companies will not lose. Generally speaking, with the healthcare reform, on your size of group, they actually are limited on the amount that they can make, which is 85% on a pool of members. And so when you look at that from an interest standpoint, they're charging about 15% overall across their book, about 15% to administer the program. And what we find is that it can actually be administered closer to about 3 or 4% when you work directly with a claims processor. So you can pick up about 10% of the lost dollars. So that would be the first thing. Is self-funded the best for everyone? No, because in the fully insured model, you are being pooled with a book of business. It does use your underwriting, so it is somewhat related to how you run. But there's a little bit less variance, where the self-funded, there's a little bit more variance, so it's based off of how you run, which ultimately goes back to, if we can get the deeper discounts and control the cost, then we can put those in place. What I will say is we're not recommending self-funding. What we're recommending is partially self-funding, which would actually cap your risk. There's a max that you can pay out, and so you would know what that amount was, which is going to be similar to your fully insured rates. And so it's not just opening up the floodgates and saying we pay all claims. It's we pay all claims up to a certain amount. But with working with your local facility of controlling those high cost claims, it prevents those $1 million claims from killing your program.
What about out-of-state claims?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I don't want to get into too much, but right now using Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas is their own entity, and when you leave state, there's something called Blue Card fees. So you actually, the discounts get diluted when you leave the state. They're the only network that does that. So when we do look at the different things of United and Cigna and Aetna, they don't dilute the discounts. If you go to, say, Denver, or you go to another facility, another state, there's no fee to access that network. The discounts aren't being diluted. So.
How would this impact based in Colorado, so that would be...
Correct. Centura is based in Colorado. However, we would not be eliminating a network. So if a member still wants to, say a member wants to use someone across the street or use a different state, you would still have a network. So we have the ability to do this with like United, with Cigna, with Aetna. Blue Cross, it is a little bit more of a challenge from working with them to be able to do this, but there would still be a network where no one is required to use a Centura facility or anyone that we put in what we call tier 1. You still have a PPO network, you're just rewarded if you do. So for example, maybe your deductible and you're out of pocket, it's $500 less if you use this facility, but you could still go to anybody in the United network or the Cigna network or the Aetna network, whoever you were to go with. It is not taking away.
Yeah, so we've made a pretty big investment in the Grow Well Clinic and for our employees, and so, and I think as a commission and as a city, we've seen that being very successful. How will that impact our current agreement with them and the work that they're doing for us as a city?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that we would say is this is what we would focus on is the large claimants, where right now what you're really focusing on is more like the primary care, the day-to-day interactions and so forth. What we want to do is, hey, someone's going to have a transplant. Where are they going to go? Someone's going through dialysis or chemotherapy or those large claimants to say, if you go to one of these facilities, then you are rewarded by paying a lower out-of-pocket, and in return, we're getting the deepest discount. So what we work with, our firm works directly with you and the facility to basically say, we want PPO plus 7%, or we want PPO plus. So we're getting that extra discount. So now that $100,000 claim, it becomes $90,000 or $80,000. So it's not really targeting what you're already doing. We can work with that. It's more targeting those large cost claims. The knee replacements, where do they go?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? What?
I mean, the hard thing is we've invested a lot in what we're currently doing, and I'm not saying there could be some advantages, but I
think
we're locked in.
I do too.
We're locked in till next January, right?
Correct. This isn't to change anything. It's just to evaluate the data to see if there could be a relationship to open up. Again,
have you worked with other Centura hospitals? Or
correct, yes.
What other hospitals have you worked with?
So right now Centura is working, Centura is making a big push into Western Kansas. They just picked up the contracts about 2 years ago in Goodland, Oakley, Atwood, Ulysses, Johnson County. We're currently working with 3 of them.
I greatly appreciate wanting to work with local facilities, absolutely. But the truth of the matter is that the scope of services available is somewhat limited, and a lot of times patients, for those big costs that you're talking about, certainly God knows a transplant, those patients are going to have to be transferred. And if we're looking at transfer, we're talking about several hours away. And I appreciate you coming here. I think our major concern and what we have to conserve here as we're looking at this is the release of this data that you need to make this proposal. And so, Mayor, I'd make a motion that we do not approve this request at this time.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do not approve this request. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for
Sorry.
coming.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
You bet.
Item C, Roxanne Morgan, Executive Director of Finney County Convention and Visitors Bureau, will be present to give an update to the governing body. Roxanne?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
It's been a while since I've been in front of you guys, so I thought I'd give you an update. Every year, the state does an economic impact for the state. A lot of the communities utilize that same third-party surveyor to do their own economic impact. And so I wanted to share with you some of the information on that economic impact. On the first screen, you'll see here, visitor spending hit a high of $111 million in Finney County. That's leisure and hospitality dollars. So if you look at that, what an amazing thing. Finney County visitor spending impact continues to surge. Visitors to Finney County spend $111 million in 2017, a spending increase over 2016 of nearly $11 million. Now, since 2011, we've been on a growth pattern. It's not consistent growth. I mean, anything is ebb and flow, as you know. So we'll look at the next graph, shows the growth over since 2011. As you can tell, like I said, in 2011, we were at 74 million, which you look at a community of 40,000 people, roughly. That's an amazing number in and of itself. But when you look at the growth and what we've done in this community, it has been amazing. We rank number 11 in the state for visitor spending. So when you look at when we're competing with Wyandotte County, Blue Valley, all of those areas in those counties, that's an amazing. Dodge City, Liberal, and Garden City rank in the top 15 in the state. So I'm very, very proud of the things that we've accomplished regionally and locally. So I wanted to move on then to the third and talk a little bit about what tourism means for Finney County. And as I say, Finney County, because it's all inclusive, Garden City, Holcomb, we're all partners together. So understand our name is the Finney County Tourism Bureau. So in 2017, over 1,068 jobs were directly supported by leisure and hospitality spending, which is an amazing amount. When you look at that, at the impact that it has with the indirect spending, those indirect spending dollars would be retail facilities. The direct spending would be the restaurants, the hotels, the water park, the big pool. Those dollars are all direct. So if you look at that, that's 7.3% of all the jobs in Finney County, which in and of itself is, like I said again, makes us one of the larger employers in the community. Granted, now those are usually entry-level jobs. But when I look around this room, I think about how many of us moved here originally with those entry-level jobs and are now in leadership roles. And so I think that those jobs are very valuable. And I think that that's the face of Finney County and Garden City. Those jobs when you walk into the gas station and they know you by name, or they're happy to say, hey, you know, here's what's going on in Finney County and we want you to do this and this. So I'm very impressed with the amount of growth that has happened over the last 11 years. And if you look at it, and some people are like, well, I don't know. If leisure and hospitality dollars left Finney County and all of those jobs were gone, our unemployment rate would go from 2.7 to 9.4. So when you look at it in that aspect, I mean, leisure and hospitality and those people who are investing in leisure and hospitality, the hotels, the restaurant, the extracurriculars, even the event holders, they're creating a massive amount of jobs. Then if you look on the next screen, we'll talk about what it means to you guys as county, as city commissioners. The leisure and hospitality tax dollars. Visitor spending in 2017 supported $16.1 million in governmental revenue. When you look at that, you think big deal, but 9.8% of that came back to Finney County. And that's an amazing, between the state and the county, that's an amazing amount to come back and just be from, and when you look at the breakdown of that, the state and the local tax revenues. So in 2017, you've got $3.1 million in sales tax. You've got 0.9 in the bed tax, which is the transient tax that operates the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Property tax, $2 million. That's restaurants and that's our hotels' property taxes. You look at the other direct impact of taxes, again, that's additional sales tax, second homes, those kinds of things. And then the induced indirect taxes. And when you look at that little piece of the bed tax, and you think about that is all paid by residents outside of Finney County, so that is a free tax to the community. The CVB costs absolutely nothing for the community to operate. We are the only true investors when it comes to community entities, simply because we're not costing the taxpayer a dime, not our taxpayers. And so therefore, we help to build those other areas, the sales tax. So with that being said, with the things that we do in our 3 areas of marketing, recruiting, and marketing co-op, we have a major announcement happening. Finney County has been selected in partnership with Buffalo Dunes, Garden City Community College, and the CVB will be hosting the 2020 National Women's NJCAA Golf Championship.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, and this is the about 4th or 5th national championship that we've over the last 5 years hosted. So I'm very proud of the work that my staff is doing and the partnerships that we've created in the community. Nobody does anything alone. A lot of hard work and volunteer hours go into what we do. So I want to thank all of the community for partnering with us and all of our community members and our entities for helping us as well. So together, slowly, we'll rock this place and we'll be the new KCK. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxanne.
I have,
Good
a,
job.
I have a quick question for Ms. Morgan. Thank you, and this is very exciting. I didn't realize, I guess, the number of jobs related to leisure and hospitality. That's
amazing.
I think
pretty
very few
significant.
people do.
And you noted $35 million in wages. Is that
Yes.
correct? So what is an approximate hourly wage for a leisure and hospitality worker in Finney County?
I think Sammy would be better to answer that than I would.
$12 to $15 an
That's the average?
hour from this. Yes.
Okay. Is that with benefits or benefits included?
That's without benefits.
Without benefits? Okay, thank you.
I have a question as well. When you're reporting these numbers, how are you separating out the people that are staying in motels for tourism versus industry and commerce?
Okay, so these are leisure and hospitality dollars. So everybody who comes to Finney County and stays in a hotel ultimately is a leisure and hospitality resident. Whether they're here for business, they're still going to enjoy the tourism aspect. And if they're here for tourism, they may be also looking to facilitate their business here as well. So we never differentiate because leisure and hospitality visitors are exactly that, leisure and hospitality visitors.
So that 50% change, what from 2011 to 2016, what's some of the big things that you think caused that change from 74 million to 100 and...
Well, I think a lot of it is the growth that we've had. We've had the water park come in, multiple lodging facilities, shopping centers. We've had multiple things. We've also been really good about investing in Buffalo Dunes. We've had international tournaments. We've had AJGA is another one of those tournaments that kind of kicked us off. We have huge, wonderful events that Beef Empire Days, those kind of things, tumbleweeds that have grown over the years and have. There's several, there's not one thing that I can point to. There's a multitude of things. I mean, the growth is in Western Kansas right now, obviously. And so I think in leisure and hospitality, that growth is there as well. Quality of life is a huge role in what we do in the community. I think that's one of our biggest tools to sell our area.
Yeah, I really appreciate the partnerships that you're highlighting in the sense that really as a community that we really work together to do lots of things. And I know that your events are never just about the CVB, but also about a lot of the others, and you've mentioned several of them. So I appreciate your ability to partner and to work with many entities and bringing some of these events in. Yeah, it's really great.
Are you chairman of that?
No.
Oh.
No, good. Thank goodness.
I thought
No,
maybe,
he's not.
I thought maybe he was.
No, I am.
But he gets to hear the
No wonder
spiel on
he
a
was-
regular basis
Yeah,
how important
okay.
partnerships are, yes.
All right. Thank you. And you're next.
Thank
I
you,
am
Roxanne.
next.
Yeah, item 6 is another update from Roxanne, presenting on the arrival list, Most Visited Place Award.
Okay, so talking about partnerships, the zoo was awarded. Arrivalist is a software system that tracks people from the state website once they come into the state. And so what they do is they continue to watch where they go and what they're doing. Lee Richardson Zoo was awarded one of the most visited zoos and attractions in the state of Kansas. And so, yes, by tracking, so definitely we're getting that tourism dollar. And we're excited. Emily's going to come up here and receive the award for the zoo.
Congratulations.
we're very proud of what they do and the zoo that we have. And again, that's with investment from you guys. So we appreciate our partnerships and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Item E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the following requests from Margaret Hermosillo Opholz on behalf of Garden City High School Peak Performance Project.
I'm going to step aside for this, man.
Margaret?
Hi, you have two Margarets here.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, yes, we have a peak performance project currently at the high school. It's a student leadership team who focuses on leadership, nutrition, sleep, stress, all the healthy components into providing and making sure that each student can perform at their best, whether it's studying for a test, doing drama or debate, music, or even sports. So that's something that we're working on, and so we are holding like to hold a Zubilee with this group and doing the, doing at the zoo, of course, and so we're looking to waiving the fee so we can have more, the funds can go more towards impacting the students with their leadership skills, or activities, travel, and projects that they're going to be working on that are impacting the high school and also the community.
Yeah, we're currently Peak Performance is grant funded, and we have a great partnership with Live Well Finney County, and it's through that. And but eventually, we're looking into what happens when the grant dollars run out, and we want to create a system and a program that's really sustainable because it does make an impact not only in the high school but across the district and eventually citywide. And so we're looking at how we can do that, and as we look going into prevention and intervention training, how we can do that. And so the Zubilee or the summer celebration can create an opportunity for us to generate some of those funds while also getting to showcase these students and showcase other things at the high school as well. So it can provide for additional leadership training and summer clinics that not only impact our students here in the high school but can impact the entire district.
So what exactly are you doing a complete, it says on the west greens, are you going to use the whole area or part
Yeah,
of it?
so kind of the area where Tumbleweed is right there. We're hoping to have inflatables set up with liability from Keller Leopold Insurance, as well as see if we can get a couple of food trucks to come in or have a stage for us to showcase like some of the drama or the drum line. And so some of those performance activities that we have too.
Okay.
The action before the commission is specifically to allow them to use the West Greens on June 1st between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. and then to allow the inflatables on the grounds.
Okay.
Mayor, I would make a motion to approve this request.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for Garden City High School Peak Performance Project.
Sounds cool.
June 1st. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your event. Item F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Eric Siena Tiempo on behalf of Appliance and Furniture Mart for a waiver to the parking requirements and temporary structure requirements to allow for a tent from April 27th through May 5th at their store location, 1117 Fleming Street, to hold a tent and sidewalk sale. This request is similar to ones granted in the past.
Yep.
Commissioner Unruh is on his way. Maybe.
No. There you go.
Sorry, I got involved in something.
Mayor, I make the motion we approve the request as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for the Appliance and Furniture Mart waiver. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item G, Mayor Fankhauser had requested an opportunity to discuss among governing body members the idea of turning off the Main Street decorative street lights for the Christmas light parade. We provided a little bit of background information. I know that representatives from Downtown Vision and city staff are here if you've got questions of them, but Mayor, I'll let you lead this discussion since it was your request.
Yeah, I just brought this up. A couple of years ago, maybe longer, we had the lights go off on the parade, and of course, all the floats had lights, and it really added a lot to the atmosphere, I thought. And I know last year, the lights were on, and it was kind of bright, and I don't know, I just felt like this is something that we might want to consider.
I guess my only question was about safety. That's the only thing. Is there a difference or?
I haven't heard from any police
Crowds.
department. They got any comments?
Because people were lined up.
Put you on the
3 and
spot.
4 deep, and I just, don't want people to get lost in the dark back
Well,
there.
or tripping.
Yeah.
Mayor, Commissioners, I think with the lights off, it does pose somewhat of a safety concern for us. Us being able to see everybody in the crowd, what they're
Right.
doing, and also with kids. The parades have grown tremendously over the last few years.
It's a big one.
It's hard enough to keep them back behind the ropes in the day, and with the night and adding the lights out, it's gonna make it more of a challenge for us. Not saying we can't do it, but I know it'd be a concern of ours.
So there's a way to isolate just Main Street lights, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I think it was.
But not the side streets, or?
There's just not that
Well,
much side street lighting.
That's right, yeah, there isn't.
That would reach.
Mayor and Commissioners, that's correct. The lights on Main Street can be shut off. It will affect some of the lighting on a couple of the side streets because they're interconnected electrically, but they certainly can be shut off. And Mayor Fankhauser is correct. We did do that several years ago. And so, yes, we can do it.
What's the, is Sheila here? Yeah. Do you have any comments? About it?
Would all the businesses turn on their interior lights?
Not having been here when you've done it in the
Yeah.
dark, I don't have anything to compare it to, so I would defer to staff recommendations and whatever all you think is appropriate.
Right.
And Downtown Vision doesn't have a strong opinion one way or the other, so we're fine to do it however you would like.
Okay.
I really think that we need to leave the lights on just for a safety concern for the movement of people. And I understand where, with the Christmas lights and everything, I mean, it's nice, but there's a lot of risk of tripping over curbs and not seeing and
Yeah.
stuff. So I would make the recommendation or the motion to take no action and just conduct the event as described in the request form
That'd
with
be-
leaving the lights on.
That would be alternate
Alternative
number
3.
3. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you for bringing it to our
That's a
attention,
great
though,
idea.
but
Item H, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a waiver of the parking regulations for a special event celebration at El Remedio Market on Sunday, May 5th, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And this request is similar to those made in the past by El Remedio for their Cinco de Mayo celebration.
I make the motion, we approve the request as presented.
Second?
Second.
Who's pointing? I'll give it.
Shannon can second.
Shannon, he gets it.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for El Remedio. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7A, at the last meeting, I gave an update that we had closed on the bonds and that we put something formally on this agenda. Got a lot of questions. None of them had to really do with the bond closing. Most everybody wanted to know about the project. So we've invited the developer here, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to them. If there does happen to be a question on the bonds themselves, we'll try to answer them. I doubt there will be. So I'll turn it over to who's presenting for the group. Okay.
I'll just start. We just was.
You were the last person, I guess, that would be given this.
But welcome. Glad you are.
We just want to build a sports center for the kids to use over behind Heritage on some vacant lot that I happen to own. And we've got the engineers here to explain a little more about it.
The only other thing we'd like to add is we're very thankful for the partnership with the city. And Cesar and I started, I guess, back in 2014 to bring new things to the city, such as Old Chicago, the water park, and some of the new hotels that we've done. Our excitement on what the city's been good to us, we want to give back to the community, such as the housing and everything. And we're glad to be here, and we got our architects. SJ is going to talk about the project a little bit. We got Kurt for SMH, and Dave and Luke, and Renee, and they're going to talk about the project and short the slides. Thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, kind of echoing Cecil's and Sammy's sentiments, we appreciate all the work, the city commission, mayor, staff. It's exciting. We've been working on this for quite a while now. We've had the privilege of traveling literally all across the country to find out the best ideas, the worst ideas, and try to figure out what would work here in Garden City, Finney County, in our region. And so far, this is what we've designed, what we've came up with. This is Dave Wells with SBT Architects, and he's going to walk through a little bit of it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name's Dave Wells, partner at SBT Architecture in Wichita. Brought Luke Dolacek and Renee Slusser with me, part of the team working on this project. Just want to say this is a fabulous, fabulous project and opportunity for City of Garden City. We appreciate being the chance to work on this with these guys. We've done some sports facilities in the past. The latest was Wichita Hoops in Wichita, which is about 100,000 square feet. They're very successful, obviously bringing tourism and people in, and kids and families from all over, actually the country. So we built 2 phases. They built 1 phase, and it was, before we got done, we were starting phase 2. So youth sports, family activities are a big thing today, obviously. Hit the right button. Forward. So obviously this is part of the building team here, American Warrior. I think this slide is a little premature. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the site. Obviously, I think everybody's aware of where this site is, off of Shulman and LaRue. Since we've been involved, we've kind of played around with the orientation of the building a little bit, whether it faces north, faces west, and vice versa. We've actually, this is the latest scheme of facing the building north. The big orange blob is about 160,000 square feet of building. That's the main sports building. And then you'll see there's some outdoor, there's a restaurant to the left, and then there's some outdoor courts and pickleball and event space and entertainment space as well. So the whole space will be very lively. Some of it's modeled off of other facilities you see across the country with some pickleball courts and outdoor entertainment venues. So we're trying to capture, everybody and the families, from young kids to older people, to be able to come and congregate here and hang out. So we're not catering to just one type of crowd, obviously. So we have not gotten into quite yet what this thing will look like. We're still finalizing the final design, the floor plan. We're getting really close on that, so hopefully we can give you an update on a nice, pretty picture of what we think this thing can look like here pretty soon. Just thought I'd throw these in here at the last minute, gives you a little bit better orientation. This is from the northwest, kind of looking back. You can see where the Heritage is and Sammy's Heritage and the water park's at. This just shows in the foreground the hotel that'll go in, and then you can see the Sports of the World complex in behind with the outdoor facilities, and kind of in the foreground, the restaurant, and then behind the Sports of the World building. And then just kind of another view from the other side. Obviously, the buildings right now are pretty basic shapes. There's not a whole lot to them yet. This is kind of the generic floor plan we're working on right now. And obviously, there's a lot of pictures on the screen, so we thought I'm going to let Luke talk a little bit about the floor plan and some of the uses that we have within the main facility.
So the overall scheme is to have a major area for basketball and volleyball courts, and then to also have indoor soccer, potentially indoor baseball practice, little league, youth up to high school and whatever events can come in here. But what it allows is to have the overall main floor, like Dave said, was a about 160,000 square feet. And this would have a separate trampoline park tenant in it that would operate alongside with the rest of the facility. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, the breakout rooms would be for overflow space for tournament time and other events that would need that for breakout space that to help for overflow seating. And then this next slide shows the upper mezzanine level to where it would have fixed seating that would overlook the basketball and volleyball courts as well as the indoor playing surface. And
Would that be open to the courts?
Yes, it would.
So you can yell and scream and all that?
Yep. Yeah. There could be removable bleacher seating on the main level, but then the fixed seating on the upper level. Concessions and in the lobby space as well as the mezzanine space as well, with the trampoline having separate party rooms for private birthday parties and events such as that.
I think the last slide is just a kind of another blow up of the outdoor space. If you can picture the Sports of the World building to the south there, just kind of the north facade, reaches out into the outdoor entertainment, some synthetic turf area, concessions, bathrooms, and maybe an outdoor grilling, cooking station on one end. The main entrance into the main building. The other anchor on the other end to the west would be the new restaurant with a rooftop deck that looks out over the rest of the venue. And then we're looking at exploring right now enclosing some of the pickleball courts. You can kind of see the four there. We're looking at that right now. And then there's a couple outdoor pickleball courts, and then there's two outdoor volleyball as well. So we're still massaging what that might look like. On that turf area as well, on one end, we'll probably have like a small outdoor stage that we can have some small little concerts and things like that. So, and various numerous outdoor games type setup out there. So very interactive space. Whether you're at the Sports of the World main building and just want to come out and venture out into the entertainment area, or you're in the restaurant and come out. So really try to get everything integrated. Come out, spend the day, you know, not just come out for an hour. You can spend the day, spend the weekend out here pretty easily, especially if you're in here for tournaments. So that's kind of the whole concept of that. So trying to reach out to many age groups and people. And actually, obviously, we're trying to draw people in from all over this region. So just knowing on the facility in Wichita we worked on, Wichita's a little bigger town, but that facility draws nationwide. Anything from youth to clear up to college age they have in there. So this facility too could probably, at this size, could probably accommodate similar types of ages and types of things. So I think it'll be a really great draw here, just knowing past experiences. So,
Are you thinking, what, summer, starting groundbreaking, something like that, or what do you think?
We talked with Kurt a little bit on the civil side about moving dirt. I think we talked about maybe late summer or so, trying to get some dirt going. We got a lot of dirt work, but I'll let him probably talk a little bit about how the site needs to work before we get any kind of building pad and building going up. So,
Can I ask a quick question just about the site plan,
Yep.
the bigger one? I know we've talked about in the developers agreement thing, phase 1, phase 2, and this is going to be phase 1. So where would theoretical, is it out there to where the green space is? That would be phase 2, or?
I'll let it.
And I guess the heart of my question comes to parking, because there's a lot of parking lot there,
Yep.
and that's cool. But did you consider vertical parking to try and maybe conserve and add in some more green space, or change the footprint at all? And how would that play into phase 2?
As far as vertical parking, as long as we've got the footprint to put, obviously, parking on the ground, you're going to do it, because vertical parking is $15,000 to $20,000 a stall. So
Too
your
expensive.
cost is-
Yeah.
So we haven't discussed that at this point, but I'll maybe let these two talk about next.
I think with the parking lot, we did what the requirement for the city on our parking lot. And I don't think we can go up, that's going to tremendously change the cost of this project. Then we have the retention pond, which took a lot of that green space. I think there was a lot of talk about phase 2 that might be cooperation maybe across the highway with the college, but we haven't got into that yet. Our focus right now is on finishing phase 1 But between the retention pond and the parking, we're gonna utilize a lot of that space for that project.
Thank you.
If you wanna go out from parking, it's gonna need a couple more Starbucks.
Yeah. I realize that, but there's gonna be a lot of water runoff.
We
That
need
much
to walk
cement.
before we run and build that height first, before we even think of our parking and how we're gonna go through it. So that's a big part of why we designed it. And we designed the restaurant to be closer to our other projects too, as the water park and the heritage, to make access for guests to be able to walk back and forth. And
Good.
we're hoping our locals have a better view as they see where's the restaurant at, compared to putting it all the way where the park is.
That's a good design.
But that retention pond is huge. I mean, that's,
Well,
I think it'll hold the water unless we have
I'll
a
let
flood.
Talk about it.
I love talking about this. I learned so
There
much.
I might give a broader answer to that question that isn't specific to their project, but the district itself includes more than the property they own. So in theory, a phase two wouldn't have to be on this site plan. If a phase two was on this site plan, either with them as the owner of the property or as them as a seller of the property to a future developer of those features, there's really three things that the Sports of the World concept has left, and it's a little bit subjective, but for discussion's sake, let's say it's the outdoor pitch, the outdoor stadium, the outdoor fields, open turf that can be configurable to whatever size of rugby, soccer, whatever field you want to make, which is on a site plan a big chunk of grass, right? And then the other is the indoor ice rink. So the big giant swath that would contain field is going to be a little bit compromised with this, but the other two, any sort of outdoor stadium or any sort of ice rink, is still, it could still fit on this piece of property if this piece of property was the one that was identified by a future developer as a place to put it.
Okay.
So there's nothing in I would characterize it, if this gets at the crux of your question, there's nothing in the design of phase one that prohibits any other of the other elements of phase 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however far you went from being done.
Okay.
Kurt Lancaster with SMH Consultants. To answer, or to kind of try to answer your question on detention, yeah, it's going to be, there's a big number that we got to deal with there. We're evaluating those options, both surface with a surface pond that you would see, and underground storage. So though we're working through those, underground storage can start to become a little bit of a costly venture. So we're just evaluating our options there of what the best option would be for this site and what it, weighing those options versus having land available for future uses. To kind of come back to a question about when we would be moving dirt and things like that. If we can, continue to work with the city like we have been, to potentially, start to kind of phase the construction and go down that road of possibly, having some grading plans done. We could potentially be trying to do some of that this summer with some early grading, with some potential of having some, more finalized plans to building parking lot and streets and things like that towards the end of the year. I'll hope that answers those questions. Jumping back, I'll talk to you a little bit about the site. As far as drainage is going to go east. It'll tie into the Schulman stormwater system, either directly into the stormwater sewer on Schulman, or we are also going to possibly explore tying into the detention facility there at Jenny Barker in Schulman on the southwest corner of that site. We might be able to pipe there as well. So we're exploring those options now. There will be a street that connects LaRue to Schulman on the north side of the facility, as you see in the site plan. That's intended to be a public street. We're finishing up the traffic counting this month for the traffic study, so that's been completed. You've probably seen some of our people sitting in lawn chairs or sitting in cars at the intersections. They had a few cold days, so they froze their butts off a little bit. But we've got that completed, so we'll start analyzing that data to complete the traffic study to kind of see what that, how the impacts of what, is that a 2-lane street, is it a 3-lane street, what that looks like, what other improvements may need to be made at other intersections, things like that. That water, we'll have a water line that comes into the site and will, either loop back on itself on LaRue or go up to Schulman. Sewer service will come into the site as well. So we're working through how that's all going to work and how that also serves future phases off to the east that we're leaving. We'll kind of go, as the plating process starts, we'll be back before you with rezoning and replatting for this site. We'll see how size those utilities to potentially serve what potential uses might be out there, so that we're not doing it twice. So,
sounds good.
Any other questions?
No, it's really exciting.
Thanks.
One thing to point out is just the size. I mean, everybody can agree that Parrot Cove is a big building. I mean, look at the difference. I mean, that's a huge investment in our community.
Well, I just appreciate the investment you're making, not only in the community and drawing people from outside, but just also in just our families and all of the people who have the opportunity. So thank you this is a big undertaking. We realize it's a huge responsibility. It sounds like you have an incredible team to back you up. So congratulations.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the bonds? No?
They were placed?
They were placed, yeah. They were placed. Okay.
Matt, do you want to discuss it, or?
Well, there will be an issue just for full disclosure, at the next meeting. We ran into some ambiguities in the code working with the developer and our staff. There's a preliminary kickoff meeting that took place with their design professionals and some of our technical folks. And so I'll let Randy describe the one that's probably the most substantive to them finalizing where on that property the buildings themselves fit.
There's a state law that says that you cannot sell alcoholic beverages within 200 feet of a church, a school, or a college. And the way this site plan is configured, there's a church to the north of the proposed project that could possibly be within the 200-foot distance. Our code section is a little bit ambiguous, and there's been a couple interpretations by the Attorney General of the state law. So I'm working to amend our code section to make it consistent with the Attorney General's interpretation of the state law. And I'll be bringing that to you next commission meeting, which I think will resolve this issue.
Okay. And we'll also be making an effort, because the law being changed is one that would apply citywide, could affect schools, churches.
Basically, it just affects churches.
Just churches, no change to the schools. And then there was a part of the code that referenced libraries, which I'm not sure is applicable anymore. But to the extent it applies generally, but also to the extent it applies specifically to adjacent property owners, the city between now and May 7th, when we anticipate having this ordinance changed before the commission, will notify anybody that we would perceive to be a stakeholder that could either offer an opinion in support or an opinion in opposition, so that you have that kind of feedback heading into whatever decision. It's an important decision in as much as we've got to know if there's a setback, what is it to, because that's one of the big ambiguities. Is it'd make a great high school debate contest to say which, is it to the building, is it to the area in where you would consume, is it to the property line to property line? There's a vagueness in what we have written now that you could pick about any of those sides and put up a pretty inspired argument. So we want to clean that
I
up
mean, we're
for
not-
this project and the future one.
We're not proposing, nor could we, do away with the 200-foot restriction. And Matt's correct, it's an interesting legal argument. It's whether you measure from the building where the licensed premise is located to the property line of the church, school, or college, or whether you measure from the building of the licensed premise to the building of the church. It's been interpreted two different ways by the AG, depending on whether it's a school, college, or church, which doesn't make any sense to me, but so we will have two different applications in the new code sections.
What, one for churches?
Yes, and I will provide you with the Attorney General opinions so you can read it. The AG back in 2005 interpreted the law to mean that to define a church as the building as opposed to the entire property where the church is located, whereas a school not only includes the building, but it also includes the outdoor areas, playgrounds, activity areas. And the AG and ABC have consistently applied those two different interpretations of the distance regulation to applicants for licenses.
Well, one thing, I read that one time, and it says liquor stores, retail liquor stores.
That is one, that's a license holder as well as retailers of alcohol. So we deal not only with liquor stores, but also with drinking establishments, with restaurants, and Class A, Class B clubs.
Okay. Any other questions heading into that? All right, very good. Thank you, and thank you all for presenting. Item 7B, City Planner Charles will provide the governing body an exciting update on the status of the city's recreational trails program grant. This is specifically in regards to a pedestrian pathway trail in the Southeast Park. All yours.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Staff is pleased to inform the governing body that our grant application for the Southeast Park Trail Improvement has been selected to receive a maximum grant award of $156,700. We have included for the governing body's review the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Park, and Tourism letter notifying the city on the grant award and a map of the proposed Southeast Park Trail improvements. During the July 17, 2018 commission meeting, the governing body authorized city staff to submit the grant application to assist in the construction of the proposed trail identified in the Southeast Park Plan. This recreational trails program grant, the 80-20 split, is administered by the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism and the Federal Highway Administration. The estimated cost for this project is $195,900 with a local share of $39,200. We would like to thank the following team members on their efforts when expressing the importance of this project of the Trails Advisory Board in Wichita. If they would like to stand as I read off their names. Myself, Callie Dyer, Lenore Martinez, Adam Sharp, and Sam Curran. No action is required at this time. The funding sources for the Southeast Park projects are in the 2018 GEO bond for $1,030,000 and the awarded Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism grant for $156,700 are the funds in the GEO code.
Great.
All right. I remember Jennifer talking about how excited the young people in that area were to have a park, and so I think this is what a great addition. I mean, that's going to be neat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, and the other folks that worked on that as well. The commission did pretty aggressively set aside bond project authority or bonding authority to make a big investment in that Southeast Park, and just for comparison's sake, this grant kind of boosts that another 15% or so, so that's pretty powerful. stuff. Let's see. What are we ready for?
Right.
The C through F are all staff reports without presentation. If you've got questions on those, we'd be happy to try to answer them. If not, I'll draw your attention to 8, the meetings of note. I'd like to point out that on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, around 12:15, KDOT Secretary Julie Lorenz will be at the Finney County Transit, what is that called, Sam? Their headquarters or?
Just transit.
The Finney County Transit Facility, and just a kind of a public appearance, checking out Southwest Kansas. We'll have an opportunity to visit with her internally in advance of that. But then is going to go down and I guess make a public appearance, make herself available. You all are invited to that. I believe around 12:15 at Finney County Transit. So I think they're kind of passing through and checking out the region and talking to their different district offices.
Okay.
Let's see, what else on here? Lots of good stuff, of
I'm
course,
gonna
but
read the proclamation for the Arbor Day tree planting ceremony.
yeah,
On the
that's right, on the 26th at 3, and you've got to dig that hole for the tree,
Right.
so.
I'll bring
nice
the
if you
shovel.
could
Do
get.
it before or after?
Depends on where they feed me.
Oh, well, that's right.
And I think that's all draw our attention to. If any of those require RSVPs, please do those through CLN. I think that makes us ready for item 9A. And if there isn't anything specifically you want to discuss, the appropriate motion would be an approval of ordinance number 2481-2019A.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve appropriation ordinance number 2481-2019A.
There's a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appropriation ordinance 2481-2019A. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a resolution establishing aesthetic standards to apply to small cell wireless applications for placement of new small cell antennas on city-owned property. If approved, it would be resolution number 2807-2019. Mike?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The resolution before you is in follow-up work. The Federal Communications Commission, in a declaratory ruling and the third report, order WT docket 17-79 and WC docket 17-84, FCC 18-133. I know that really means a lot to everybody there. Anyway, these new rulings was adopted on September 26, 2018, and they were released on September 27th of 2018, and it requires the City of Garden City to establish and make available for the public aesthetic standards for the placement of new small cell antennas located with small cell or small wireless facilities within the city. And it's the desire of the city to maintain these aesthetics while allowing for an increase in availability and quality of wireless services. These aesthetic standards shall apply to small cell wireless applications for placement of new small cell antennas on city-owned property. Applications that conform to these standards will require formal approval of the City Commission, and applications that do not conform with these standards will require individual review and approval of the Public Utilities Department and the City Commission. And the wireless attachment devices aesthetic standards are attached. If we did not do this, then we could not control what these wireless facilities may look like on any city property. That includes city-owned streetlights, city-owned power poles, just city property in general. Certainly would recommend that you approve this as presented. We've worked with the city attorney, Randy. We've worked with some other attorneys on this to make sure we had everything just right. It does coincide with Senate Bill 68 that was signed by our governor on April 11th of 2019.
It says they're no more than 3 foot high. right? That's what this says. Unless mutually agreed upon otherwise.
Yeah, above the top of the structure.
Is
Correct.
this for 5G? Is that what it's for?
It's kind of in preparation for that. We have actually, I think there's 8 locations already installed in Garden City. Probably the one is, you might notice is the one by the west McDonald's. Just on the west side, there's a power pole there, a regular wooden pole, but you'll notice there's a thing on top of that with a bunch of wires coming down. That's similar to what will be required here. There's another location though, just would be on Belmont Street, I believe. There's a big box looking thing that's mounted there. This will prohibit those types of things from being there.
So this is just on city property, on private property, or, I mean, a business property, how is that regulated? Is it, do they make application through the planning commission, or?
They will, yes.
And then they
correct.
have to apply to these standards based on that?
We would certainly want them to apply to these standards. There probably maybe some question as to whether or not they have to adhere to these exactly. I know Caleb's office is working to develop some of the exact same type of standards for any kind of development within the city.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve Resolution 2807-2019.
I second.
Sir, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2807-2019 about the aesthetic standards for small cell wireless applications. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a motor vehicle nuisance which would abate a nuisance identified at 510 St. John Street. If approved, it would be Resolution 2808-2019.
Again, our typical,
Again, it's the typical.
haven't heard back from it
request.
at all.
Nope.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve Resolution 2808-2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2808-2019 regards to, let's see, is that 221? Is that what that was?
510.
Yeah,
510.
510.
Okay, 510. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance resolution. This would abate an alleged resolution at 2112 North Main Street. If approved, it'd be if approved, it would be for resolution number 2809-2019.
So did they take advantage of the spring cleanup at all, or no?
Nope, this
No?
is post-spring
Okay.
cleanup.
I'd make a motion to approve 2809-2019 for the
Second.
resolution.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2809-2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Oh, you're still, yeah.
Sorry. Got a few more.
No? Yeah. Awesome.
Mayor and Commissioners, item 11A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the petition for the creation of a community improvement district for Campus Drive and Kansas Avenue for 2107 East Kansas LLC. And
Mayor and Commissioners, we bring before you the petition for a creation of the Community Improvement District for Campus and Kansas Avenue. This property shouldn't be unfamiliar to you. We just approved this as a TIF for the redevelopment district. This is the second part of their funding that they want to use, is the creation of a CID. This is the first step of the CID process. The second step will be bringing a resolution of intent, which schedules the public hearing to create the district. That will be coming before you, the resolution, on May 7th. Again, the CID is an additional capture of taxes in which the developer will be able to use to build their facilities. And there are no fiscal obligations from the city under the CID program. The alternatives before the governing body are they may accept the petition request, they may not accept the petition request, or you may defer action until a later date. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I think that there was, I'd requested, and we had been told that we would be provided with a feasibility study. Is that still forthcoming with the later phase
Yes.
of this?
We already have received a feasibility study on the same day we were submitting this, and I can submit that with the resolution, so we do have that in hand.
Oh, good, good.
And it'll
It'd be
come
nice to
again to
review
you
that.
when, their TIF project plan is going through planning commission this Thursday, and then that'll have to come before you as a governing body again, so we can put it in there as well.
Thank you.
Okay, this motion has been made to approve the CID. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the CID for Campus Drive and Kansas Avenue, which is 2107 East Kansas. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item B, the governing body is asked to consider accepting the approved Garden City Recreation Commission Resolution 2019-1001, approving the Garden City Recreation Commission enter into a lease purchase agreement with Clayton Holdings LLC under KSA 12-1928H.
Afternoon,
Aaron?
Mayor and Commissioners. As you remember, in January, we came before you to go seek a construction bid and a lease purchase proposal. We've done that. I'm happy to announce that those came in under budget based on what we presented you in January 8th. But as required by state statute, we needed to bring that resolution for the lease purchase back in front of you. So that's what we're asking for permission today.
So I was on the bid sheet, so you received the two, so you, so all of these you asked for bids from, and then you received the two bids, is that correct?
Correct.
It's only two bidders. American Warrior Construction is the low bidder.
Correct.
So how does that affect your annual payments? Does it lower them, or?
It does. So both the total estimated project cost is under, which lowers it, but also the interest rate being lower than what we used to budget it lowers it down pretty effectively from what we were anticipating to be about $188,000 a year to $163,000 a year. So that definitely helps go a long way.
With respect to this lease as well as the next one, state law requires or strongly suggests that the governing body consent to any lease agreement entered into by the Rec Commission. And since they are organized under the city's authority, they are coming to you to ask you to consent to this lease and the next one. The city has no liability on these leases. It's not a party to the leases, and I'm not quite sure why that there's a state requirement, but it is in the law, so you just need to give your consent to the Rec Commission to enter into the two leases.
So
one at a time.
does their board sign off on the lease?
Yes.
Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay, so
Correct.
then this is.
I make a motion that we approve to the consent in entering into the lease purchase agreement with Clayton Holdings LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the lease purchase agreement with Clayton Holdings and on the, that's 909 Fulton, yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the lease between Schmidt Start Properties and Garden City Recreation Commission for parking at 901.5 Fulton Street under KSA 12-1928H.
So in order for us to be in compliance for parking for the new renovated facility, we would like to enter into a lease agreement with the adjacent property owner for additional parking. And this actually, in review, works out the best because it will create an alley crossway rather than trying to create agreements across Fulton and have our kids cross Fulton. So this lot does put us in compliance with parking codes with the as required by the city. And this was budgeted, this was planned. Again, this was all presented back in January when we talked about that.
Are you
We
gonna
knew-
leave the fence up?
No, the
Fence
fence will
around
come
it?
down. Fence will come down and we'll basically create a crosswalk and pave to Fulton on the south end of that alley. And we'll actually.
Center.
Mhm.
Okay.
I make the motion we approve entering into the lease agreement with Schmidt Star Properties LLC for the rec commission.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve a lease between Schmidt Start Properties and Garden City Rec Commission for 901 and a half Fulton Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And Matt, if I could just formally invite all the mayor and
Yeah.
commissioners, we gave you an invitation today, but next Monday at 3:30, we're doing a groundbreaking, and we'd love to see the city staff and the commissioners there. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank
you.
Mayor and Commissioners, item 12A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an easement agreement for the Northborough replat of the first edition. Melissa.
Mayor and Commissioners, we bring before you the easement agreement for Builders Development Corporation, which is for the development north of the cemetery. The developer has prepared this easement agreement between themselves, City of Garden City, the James Richard Cornett Recoverable Trust, and the Judith J. Cornett Recoverable Trust. This easement is for the installation of infrastructure improvements for them to install the sewer connection to that development. There are no fiscal obligations associated with action to the city. The alternatives before the governing body are they may approve the easement agreement. The governing body may not approve the easement agreement. Staff recommends alternative 1.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the easement agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the easement agreement for Northborough replat, first edition. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor and Commissioners, this was an addition to the agenda today, this morning. It is a request for the use of downtown development funds for 107 Grant Avenue, Suite 2 and 3. Alyssa?
Mayor and Commissioners, we bring before you a request to use the Downtown Development Fund for the remodeling and upgrading of the second-story retail of Suites 2 and 3 at 107 Grant Avenue. This is the location for the Janet Dahl Goldsmith Jewelry. The total cost of the renovation and professional fees is estimated to be at $38,905. The application has submitted all of the required information, and provided to you with this attached was the submittal package for review. The Downtown Development Fund for 2019 has not seen any applications. This is the first. It currently has a balance of $117,142.24. For the remainder of this year, using the scoring matrix, the project scored a total of 7 points. With 7 points, the project ranks within the TBD reimbursement level. A reimbursement level of 15% is recommended. This project is in compliance with the Downtown Master Plan and the Garden City zoning regulations. There currently, as I stated, is about $118,000 in the fund. If the application is awarded at the scored amount, the Downtown Development Fund will be reduced to $111,306.49 for the remainder of 2019. And the Downtown Development Fund, again, is funded by our general fund. The recommendation for this project was 7 points using the scoring matrix, and again ranks within that TB determined level. This resulted in a staff recommendation of 15%. However, the governing body may choose any of the listed alternatives or create a new viable option to fund this project. The alternatives before you are the governing body may fund the award at 15%, which would calculate out to $5,835.75. The governing body may fund the award at a different amount. The governing body may deny the award of the Downtown Development Fund.
Melissa, was there a specific request for how much the award would be?
No.
For? Okay. Thanks. I believe we have Janet here.
Janet's here. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for letting me be here today, and I want to thank city staff for getting this on the agenda today. Max Miller is the owner who's making the request. He's not able to come, and his son Kyle, who has been working on this for him, is farming. I think he's planting corn. The builder, the contractor is in Denver at an appointment, so that leaves me. I'm the tenant. So on the scoring matrix, I hope you'll give this some consideration. The storefronts on Main Street that are on ground level, each of them, even though they may be owned by the same person, they're kind of all in a row, but they're considered individual buildings. This isn't the case. We're on the second story and we don't have that luxury of sidewalk. And so all of the businesses that are upstairs, we have a corridor. And so that's why these are suites. This particular space has been unoccupied for over a decade, maybe 15 years. And if you'll see in the pictures that are in there, it's in pretty bad shape. But with this renovation, it will restore the original floors from 1885. I know this building is not on an historic registry, but it is an historic building. It was built in 1885 by our first mayor and one of the founders of our city. The space that is being completely renovated used to have a doorway that connected it to the Buffalo Hotel, but it has been sealed off. And let's see if there was any other.
You have the roof leak stopped?
Yes, when Max bought the building, I think it was in the 70s or 80s, the owners who had it before then didn't do anything to the building, and the first thing Max did was go in and fix the roof. And you can see that there's been
lots of streaks.
Yeah, a lot of water damage, and he's done a lot of work to that building. And my particular business, I'm growing, I need more space. Max has graciously offered to expand into that vacant room, and it will benefit me greatly, but it also, at any time would I not ever be there, somebody else will have an amazing space. And upstairs right now, we have 7 businesses. There is a photographer, an appraiser rents 2 spaces. We have a financial planner, 2 attorneys, a home health office, and myself. I think that's 2, did I say 2 attorneys? We have 1 space that's open, and that's it. So it's a very active and viable part of the downtown.
Janet, you had mentioned the scoring matrix and discussed that about it not necessarily being ground level with there not being a downtown sidewalk, but you having an upstairs corridor in the building. In your mind, which section which question would have that impacted on the application?
I'd hope you consider some points for number 2, because it is a vacant room.
Okay.
And it's, in my space, when I moved in, I did an electrical upgrade, but in that space, the electrical is non-compliant. It doesn't have any ground to it. It's just and only has 2 plug-ins, and so, and then number 4, because it is an historic building, and it is a complete remodel of that room, and then we just need to blend in my room to that one. And also Section G, it's been vacant for a very long time.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what are you asking for, money-wise, like dollar-wise in the grant?
On behalf of Max, we were calculating a score of 32. So that would fall in
The 40%.
But that would be up
Okay.
to the discretion of the commission, because I know this property doesn't fit, it's just different.
Right. Well, that's helpful, because then we know what the kind of hash marks of the ask are between what the staff's calculated and what you were hoping for, and then that sort of gives the commission
Well, I
a
kind of like,
range.
I don't like these kind of numbers, 0.75, but I'm thinking somewhere between 6,000 and 10. is what I would suggest, but whatever the rest.
But the
wanna
total
do.
project cost is 39,000?
Yeah.
38,905.
So by Mrs. Dahl's calculation, it would be about 40% of that versus 10, which is 25%.
Yeah, so that's
And that
50
kind of falls, you know, if we were in the 10 to 15 range, I think we'd be midway between these two proposals.
Right.
I mean, I agree with how you're scoring too. I mean, I think maybe
Yeah,
you
it's
could
just
get
a-
both of it.
Well, and this is the problem with the binary scoring where it's all yes, 10 or 0 points.
Right.
Where like this is filling a vacant building. I mean,
Right.
you could easily score 3 points to that out of 10, which would put it into the next level. So,
And a
I
vacant
think-
room versus a vacant building.
Right,
is
right.
different.
Well, I think the thing that's nice is that this is what the Downtown Development Fund was to be used for, and that there haven't been any additional applications, and that's really the use to really build downtown. I mean, that, to me, makes it, you know, a project that we haven't had one in a while, and so a project that sounds worthwhile. Max Miller's been a huge supporter. I mean, he's, to me, one of those community pillars. He and Mary Ann, who for years, I think, have supported, and I think this is a really great project. The 7 was hard.
Yeah,
The
what did
7
they
points.
give, what did we give them for the elements? Do you remember? Didn't they get, or did they?
Elements is a little different because they did 2 funding requests, and so I'd have to go back and check what we did.
And one got turned back, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they submitted again, and we awarded it, and then they asked for another reimbursement.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of second story, I know.
I think it's the only location other than Stage that has second-story retail.
Well, and how many businesses, that was really great information about how many businesses are actually using that space, so that's.
It's surprising the amount of traffic that we have up there, because the signage is small and.
You can't sneak around up there though, because it's, you know when people are up there.
Is there an elevator there?
Yes.
Okay.
There should be more signage. That should be part of this renovation, is more signage.
We're as far as we can go with compliance, so.
Sorry, I made that suggestion. Maybe we need to change that, because I
Well,
think,
I
I
appreciate
agree. I mean,
there's
there's,
the $10,000 figure, I appreciate that. I would even be willing to negotiate for higher, but I appreciate that at least. I think that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve $12,000 to this project because it is current business, but it is an expanding business. And due to the fact that there have been other items brought to our attention, I make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amount of $12,000 for this project, which is, what's the address? Oh, 107, Suite 2 and 3. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Motion
Commissioner.
carried.
Thank you.
Item 12C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Great Plains Development, Inc. For the city membership and participation in the amount of $3,750. And Mayor, before this item starts, I'd asked the city clerk and the finance director to interrupt me at 2:30 to go into budget at that point in time, because there's a hard stop that Melinda has that she needs to be aware of. So if this issue goes on for a little bit, we may need to stop it and reconvene for Melinda's budget presentation. So just for your awareness. All right. All you, Bob.
Bob, go ahead.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Bob Wetmore. I'm Executive Co-Director of Great Plains Development. And as a quick rundown of who we are and what we do, since the 1980s, actually 1987, Great Plains is a private, not-for-profit corporation. Our job is to help cities and counties with the whole alphabet soup of all the programs at the state and federal level, and also help small businesses at the local level with gap funding for lending. So in other words, banks come first, but there's a whole bunch of different programs out there that are available for small businesses. We're also the folks that help you with the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Revolving Loan Fund that you have at the local level. We also help the county at the county level. There's a private development group, Garden City Area Industrial Development, GCAID as we call them. We help with that. We also help Finney County Economic Development with their loan fund, which is the E-Community Loan Fund. So think of us as the people that kind of connect the dots. We wear two hats. One is the grant hat. We're the folks that help if we have community projects that might qualify for the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program. We help put those together. We help submit them, and we follow them through all the way to the very end. The other hat we wear, of course, is the loan hat, and that loan hat could be all the way from helping with SBA packaging to assist the banks, and then also go all the way down through all the other funds that we have available. And just for your reference in here, got a little summary letter that you can tell I'm not reading word for word, and I promise I won't read it word for word. But if you look back through behind the buff-colored sheet in your packet, the first sheet is all the different programs that are available for CDBG programs. And normally, because of the requirements, and there's a whole laundry list of requirements, normally we don't qualify as far as a city because of the sheer population size and the low to moderate income level. By the way, all those CDBG programs have to match 51% of the recipients or beneficiaries have to be low to moderate income. So city-wise, Garden City is at 45.7%, so it really doesn't qualify, but there can be targeted projects, things like senior centers, different projects, daycare, that might qualify. So know that by sheer chance, this Thursday, there's a CDBG workshop in Salina. We've been working with Finney County Economic Development, brought us up to speed on a big local project. We're going to meet face-to-face with the CDBG people in Salina to discuss possible qualifications for that project. So we've got that coming up. The other thing that we've been talking about lately, opportunity zones. You've all heard about the federal opportunity zones that are available now. We were in Topeka. EDA, the Economic Development Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce, brought us up to speed with what they have available. USDA, we met with them, but we're not quite up to speed with them on USDA rural development and what's available for the opportunity zones here. Economic Development is pretty familiar with Kansas Department of Commerce and the fact that they're also promoting those opportunity zones. So we'll see where this is going. We're not, it's kind of a program in search of application here, so we'll see some counties. I was in Lane County yesterday. We started to work with them on a project that they're applying for opportunity zones. So we're kind of getting down that road. On the loan side of things, you'll see on the summary sheet, the banks locally talk to us regularly. In fact, we get more calls from the banks here in Garden than we do in the other 27 counties that we serve. Know that we have several that we've worked with over the last year. We have one right now that's an active application. In fact, we met with Economic Development and that potential applicant and the bank on where we're going with that project. So I think you'll see that come out. By the way, we always think first about EDA revolving, or EDA, that's another revolving loan from the CDBG, your funds locally. We try to get them qualified for those first. So know that we've got a lot going on with that. There's another new fund out called the Community Investment Fund. It's the Kansas Health Foundation, and I wish Matt was here because it is a new fund that's targeted at specifically not-for-profits and government programs. We've never been able to loan funds to those programs. So know that this is a new fund that the Health Foundation has come out with, and they're partnering with Network Kansas, which all these things are connected together, do the e-community funds for economic development. So know that this is a new fund that we've never been able to loan funds to not-for-profits or to a government project. They're for impact projects, projects that'll benefit the whole community. So know that that's one of the brand new things that we've got. And
kind of summing up here, if you look at the projects we've done over the years, you do have a list of those projects in the back of your packet. You'll see there's kind of a yellow stripe down through it. Quickly, over the years, Great Plains, long before my time, I've been there almost 10 years, but over the years, $33.2 million in projects, 270 retained jobs, 533 created jobs. That includes both loans and grants that we've partnered on over the decades. Currently, in your local revolving loan fund, you have $425,502.76 as of the end of last year. We'll probably run through an audit with Department of Commerce this year with that. So the good news is we've got a couple of applications that I'm hoping we can move some of those funds through. You currently have 2 loans out of that fund. They're both current at this point. And then we work with staff to report those funds to the Kansas Department of Commerce. Every 6 months we have to do a report. That's a lot. Also want to thank you for letting us borrow the mayor. He's been the president of our board at Great Plains for a number of years now, and he knows all these different things that we try to keep going as we go along here. In fact, once in a while it's kind of fun because we get to say, and we're doing this, and we're doing this, and he'll say, in Garden City, I didn't know about that. So sometimes he finds out about things that are going on. Questions I can answer, it's a lot thrown at you at one time.
Yeah, it's, I'll just say for full disclosure that we need the support from the cities because there's a few cities that do not contribute, and we really appreciate what Garden City's done. So
your volunteer support is absolutely key to us. You're one of the key cities. The county has committed again this year to their support. They commit 50-50.
What are the 2 current loans you talked about? Which ones are they?
Pardon me?
You said there are 2 active loans. Which ones are they?
One of them is Essis's, which used to have the A&W. Although it's closed, it is still current and being paid off. The amount for that is $23,156. Similar amount is being held by the county. So that's one of those. We used to be able to do them in partnership with the county. The state doesn't allow that anymore. It's one or the other. If you're in the city, you have to just use city funds. The other one that's current is Robinson's. The balance on that is $63,756.
okay.
Mayor, I move that we approve the request from Great Plains Development, Inc. for the city membership and participation in the amount of $3,750.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amount of $3,750 to Great Plains Development for membership for Garden City. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you very
Motion
much.
carried. Thanks.
We'll leave the agreement behind and the invoice. Thank you.
Moving into budget? Okay.
Okay.
Mayor will return in just a moment.
So it's notebook time.
Big notebook.
Oh, at the very front, you have the 2019 city budget calendar for your 2020 budget. Today is April 16th, and we're starting the review of our major issues and assumptions and some departmental budgets that are with the special revenue funds. Next, in May, we have budget discussions also on the 7th and the 21st. That will get you through all of the utility funds. Starting in June on June 4th and 18th, we'll be finishing up on the taxing funds. Those are the funds that need property tax for their funding source. We hope to have the valuation for the city by June 15th so that we can start looking at mill levies when we have our discussions on June 18th and July 2nd. I just want to say that the departments did a great job putting their budgets together. We had a lot of good discussion on their needs, and we hope that we can fulfill what they're needing in their departments, but they did a great job. You do have background information on the budget process in here, and you also have the 2019 budget assumptions. I'll just point out a few of them. The city valuation, we hope that it increases by 3%. That's what we're looking at for a target. Our expenses, the personnel expenses, we had the departmental budgets use a 2% salary pool. We kept the health insurance at $820 per person per month. Social Security and KP&F are projected in there on the worksheets, and work comp. You also have in your notebooks the financial policies and strategies that we've come up with to prepare our budgets. You have a listing of the governmental funds, what comprises those, the special revenue funds with a description of the fund in there, the enterprise funds and the internal service funds. You also have a section in there for the 2019 capital improvement program. And if you'll look on that printout, if you have any question as to whether they're funded, it'll say city : budget, or it will say outside funds, or it will say not funded. So as we go through the departmental budgets that have not funded projects, we will bring that up to see if that's a project that you would like to include in the budget for this year. You also have the 2020 capital improvement program that you will be making decisions on also for maybe future GO bonds to be issued in 2020. So those are some items that we will continue to look at throughout the budget process. So just keep those in mind there. You will be ratifying your goals today, so those will go in your notebook after that is passed. You have the city debt schedules in here. So you have the general obligation bond debt. 2019, if you look at the very bottom, $2,109,000 is the total for this year. It drops to $1,848,000. We are looking at a bond issue for cemetery irrigation this year. So that number in 2020 will change, just depending on what the cost of that project is and how many years it's carried out. Also included is special obligation bonds, and what that is your TIF bonds, that's Shulman Crossing. Those bonds are paid for out of Fund Number 4 that we're getting ready to look at here in a minute. Utility funds, general obligation bonds, you have the electric up on top and water and sewer down below. These two departments budget this debt service in their operating fund. Any questions to that point? Fund number 4 is the TIF fund. This is a fund that is pretty much money in, money out. We have the CID projects in here. We have 2 of them in process right now, and that's Stone and Fulton Founders Brewery. We have TIF projects, which is the Shulman Crossing project, which the city keeps those funds, and we pay that debt that I just showed you. The other TIF project is the Stone Edition. The RHID projects, that's money in and money back out to the developers. And the TGT Distribution Water Park, that's transient guest tax. We pay that out quarterly to the developer. So you'll see the revenues up on top will match the expenses down below, with the exception of the tax distribution Garden City. We just pay the debt service on that. So we carried over $866,217 coming into 2019. That's money to the good on that Shulman Crossing project. That's where we want to be. We want to be ahead of that payoff date. The sooner we can get those bonds paid off, the quicker that property will go onto the tax rolls. So as you can see, this is quite a few numbers here. We're carrying over $1,051,200 into 2020, and we expect to have a cash carryover in 2021 of $1,274,000. Any questions here? I've also attached the TIF and RHID revenue schedules so that you can see kind of how those properties, you know, the maximum amount that we'll be paying out on those. Some of them might pay off a little early and some of them might not get their full reimbursement. So it just depends on how the property values go. Fund number 5 is the capital improvement reserve. The cash balance coming into this year is $1,443,144, and if you look at the total expenses, that is the very same number as what we carried in. We've got a lot of large projects in 19 that I'll just point out a few here on the front page. We've got the police management study. We carried over those funds. You've got $76,489 in it. We have repair buildings at $79,358. On the next page, some of the larger items are, we do have a nice public art account, $53,718. Airport improvement, we'd have $20,000 there for redoing their entrance road in asphalt. The line item right above that, Recreation Commission, that is where we sold the Round Top and we held the money for them for a future payment that they might need for a maintenance building. Line item 603505, that says consumer use tax. That's an amount that we got last year, and we were concerned that it might not be the city of Garden City, so we're waiting to see if they want it back. So we're just holding it here.
How long will you have to wait?
Well, maybe till next year, and then you get
Nobody calls.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. New equipment fire, $69,530. That's a carryover from previous years. There's $126,000 in the police department line item. The big portion of that is the payment for the cameras, body cameras. They haven't billed us yet because the in-car cameras are not working to their satisfaction, so they're not sending us an invoice until they're good with that. So we moved the money over from 2018 into that line item. Neighborhood and Development Services had some funds that they carried over from 2018. They're hoping to, instead of lease vehicles, they would like to start purchasing vehicles. So they're building a pot of money in there for that. We did have some money in the Tiger Grant, that's 6111. That was the sale of scrap metal that we had in the Tiger Grant fund that we moved into here. To help future grant opportunities in that area. And the other larger line item down here is 617305, and that's zoo projects, $261,058. That was the reallocation of the elephant barn money that we reallocated last year into fiber to get fiber down to the zoo. So as you can see, the total expenses agree with the amount of cash coming in. As far as 2020 goes, all we're doing is creating a budget. We don't really know what we're going to be carrying over, but we wanted to set a budget of $591,000 so that maybe we won't have to amend it next year. Is there any questions on this fund?
Those are anticipated expenses, you're saying?
It's a total, yes, anticipated guess.
Educated guess.
I've tried that, doesn't work for me.
The next fund is a CD loan fund, and this is carried over $19,691 in it. That's where citizens can come in for an insulation loan for various projects on their homes. The city actually pays the contractors, and then we set up a loan agreement with the resident of that property, and then they pay us back. So you have loan repayments coming in and payments to contractors going out.
Do we put that on their utility bill, or how do you?
No, they have a little loan payment packet.
Book.
But that's a no interest loan, isn't that correct?
Yes.
It's a pretty good deal.
It's very good. I mean, if you know of anybody, it's a nice program.
Is tree maintenance and sidewalks under that, or is that separate?
That's separate. Fund number 7, cemetery endowment. This fund carried over $44,189. The revenues that come into here are $50 on each cemetery space that's sold. We do have some farm ground out by Sunset Memorial Garden that we lease out to a farmer, $975,000 a year. We do have, down below, you can see the breakdown of the expenses. In 5510, we've got some damage repairs that we need to do and some contracts, $10,000 this year, $2,000 next year. Cemetery improvements, 6010. There's lot markers in 2019 for $10,000, and then we have $2,000 in 2020. Section markers in 2019 at $10,000. There's repairs that need to be done to the bell tower at Valley View. $10,000 this year, $4,000 next year. And then some unidentified projects that might come up as we're looking at sidewalks and irrigation, total of $10,264. Any questions? Fund number 8, community trust. We carried over $2,086,913. We like to keep this fund at $2 million. It's a good reserve for the city to have, especially when we're speaking to Moody's on our bond rating. KDOT, when we have projects that we need reimbursed on, we use this fund for that. We have to pay the expenses first, and then KDOT will pay us back. So in 2019, the project is Pioneer Pathway. And in 2020, we've got the North 8th Street at $750,000, the C-Clip at 3rd, 4th to Belmont at $1 million, and South Farmland Road at $1.5 million. So those are in 2020. We also do a little bit of borrowing out of here for some departments. So last year when we had the Blade server go down in IT, we borrowed money out of here. They had the money in their 2019 budget, so that's already been transferred. C-Clip?
What's that?
Right here. That's, if you're talking about the 2020, that
Yeah.
is Kansas Avenue between 3rd and Old Manor.
He wants to know what it means.
Well, C-Clip is our connecting links. It replaced the old Clink.
Clink, okay.
Funds, so they combined 3 into one program.
Okay. Never heard of it. Whatever.
Yeah. Are we good there?
Yeah.
Okay. DEA forfeiture, this is one of the police department funds. This is fund number 10. They carried over $11,034. They do have drug forfeiture money that comes into this fund. And then what they use their expenses for is the undercover air cards for cameras and investigations. And then they also have a VEST grant match that they use these funds for as needed. Fund number 11 is the local drug enforcement fund, fund number 11. It carried over $52,598. The revenues that come into here are the state drug tax distribution and then also drug forfeiture money. This fund takes care of the canine expenses along with training and or purchasing of a dog if we ever need to do that.
So that's 15,000 total. Wouldn't we have two? 2 dogs?
We have 2 dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fund number 12 is the HIDA grant. We put 1 officer and benefits into this fund. We do get a federal grant that pays for part of that person, and then the police department makes up the grant city share out of the general fund police department budget. So that's roughly, they carried over $30,472, carrying into 2020, $30,250. We usually spend most of that fund. Fund number 15 is Enhanced Wireless 911 funds. This is where we get our telephone franchise off of the cell phones that come into this fund. There is quite a few expenses that come out of here. One of the expenses that came out of last year's budget was new desks for all of the communicators downstairs, and I think they've really appreciated that. But on the next page, you can see with the maintenance contracts that they have budgeted for 2019 and 2020, roughly $144,100. We have repair equipment in here at $15,000 both years, and training and education for dispatchers, $10,000 both years, and then travel for that training at $10,000 both years. In the equipment, we've got ID tokens, Motorola tower and dispatch software, battery backup system, and voice products, our recorder. That's all in 2019. In 2020, some of the same items are being asked for in that $37,200. It's a nice fund to have. That way it doesn't hit your general fund budget. The next fund is fund number 18, FinUp Trust. We carried over from previous years $52,795 in cash. We've budgeted for roughly $110,100 this year. We haven't received any notification of what the award will be for 2019. When we do, we're going to be adjusting this budget, but we just gave you an estimate of what we thought. On the next page, you can see exactly how the zoo projects and the park projects are broken down in 2019 and then in the FinUp Center projects. So there's a lot of little projects that go a long ways with these FinUp funds. So is there any questions on those projects that you'd like to ask about?
Well, that's just maintenance, isn't it? Or what's funding for FinUp Center projects? 5,500 is maintenance?
FinUp, that would be the 5,500.
Capital outlay.
Yes, it's located in there on this next page back here. FinUp Center projects.
Over on the right, far right side.
Oh, I see, okay.
And, you know, the park projects, they've got a lot going on here. Andy's here if you want to talk to him about any of these projects that come out of the FinUp money. And the zoo has quite a few good projects in there too. Fund number 26, revolving. When you see all those nuisances on your agendas, you know, we have to get the weeds cut if they don't get it done. So that's what we use this fund for, is we pay for the weeds to get cut, and then we bill the homeowner. Normally we don't collect the money, so then we have to file a lien on the property, and eventually we get the money coming in. This fund's also been used for if we had a hailstorm, the insurance money would go in here and then we do all the repairs. We haven't had to do that in a long time, knock on wood, so makes it easy to just have all the projects in one fund when it comes to repairing damage. Risk management, we transfer leftover insurance money into this fund, and then it helps the departments, especially in the general fund, if they wreck their car. It's a $5,000 deductible. They don't have to pay it out of their budget. They can pay it out of this.
How many police, have we lost police cars in the last several years, or?
We've had a few
last
wrecks,
year.
Is there
haven't
two?
we?
Lynn said I have to come up if I'm gonna talk, so.
That's right.
She's not here, you could probably get away with it.
We do unfortunately wreck a few cars here and there and try to replace them as money, and we can afford it in our budget, but yes, we wreck cars.
Well, I'm saying as far as totaling cars, has it been that? Or is
No, we haven't totaled a lot of cars. Most of our accidents are
Just the-
minor.
Right,
but
right.
We do on occasion have a vehicle that's completely totaled and has to be replaced.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fund 29, special alcohol drug abuse. This is where 1/3 of the liquor tax that comes to the city, it goes here, and then you approve payments out of the AFAC committee. We've budgeted $100,000 for 2019 and $100,500 for 2020. I did give you some history on AFAC funds behind that if you wanted to look at any of that. Fund number 30 also receives 1/3 of the liquor consumption tax. The general fund gets the other third, in case you were wondering, so that makes up full 100%. Loan repayments in here are for loans that we do with people that need a tree loan. If they need to have an old tree removed, we'll pay for that expense and they can pay us back over time. We have the Recreation Commission, we have $5,000 that's dedicated towards Ben Grimsley Gym. On the next page, you'll see what all of the expenses are for 2019 and 2020 in the landscaping area. I think you're all probably pretty excited about seeing Kansas Avenue landscape get started. So we have those funds in this fund for 2019 to get that moving forward. We have the tree removal contract. There's $47,000 in 2019 for Kansas Avenue landscaping project. So you have a total, of roughly close to 100,000 there that's going to be
in the tree removal.
Mm-hmm. And then shared facilities 6041. This is what we use with the Rec Commission. Ben Grimsley and Clint Leitner improvements both years. $70,000 in 2019, 22 in 2020. Do you want to talk about your repairs at Ben Grimsley that you're looking at?
Yeah, we can look at that a little bit.
And I also had a question about the playground too, if you,
Good.
equipment, because I know
Well,
we're
right there.
doing the new park, but does that include any equipment there or?
As far as in Southeast Community Park?
Right.
That money's not coming out of here. That'll all be out of the bond issue when we get to that part of that project.
Grant,
Well, then you're talking about another project. You're talking about what we talked about at the last meeting for the grant application. The Disney grant, the Disney NRPA grant, that's actually gonna be for Long Park.
Right, that's the inclusive, yeah.
Yeah, and that would come, yes, that would come, that 30,000 would come out of this on the playground area, so yes. And I don't remember what the other question was.
No, I was just wondering, because I know that Southeast Community Park, we've got the land, all those things, the improvements, but as far as equipment, that's another bunch of money.
Melinda wanted you to update us on the repairs at
Right.
Ben Grimsley and
Okay,
Clint
so I took a few photos and sent them to a few contractors out there, and I've got different ideas from each one of them what it's gonna take to repair. Some are in the 60,000 range, and some are well over 100,000, depending on what we need to do with cracks, if we have to cut them and bring them out and whatnot. So in the shared facilities, in the 030 and shared facility money that we have in the general fund account, we're gonna work those funds together. And really the dollars in 2019 and 2020, the 19 will carry into 20 and match up with that. And it'll probably be a project that we'll do in 2020. I just have to make some calls and find out what seasons they're using Ben Grimsley the most for. But those courts need to be resurfaced, and there's one court that really needs a lot of work structurally in some places, and so it's probably going to be an on-site visit before we really know from contractors what the bid will be.
Okay.
Grimsley. Yeah, and we're maintaining the grounds on Ben Grimsley as well over there, and maintaining the irrigation over there as well, so.
Okay.
The next fund is Special Traffic Way, but what goes along with it is the General Fund Public Works Street Maintenance. So we usually look at those together so that you can get a full picture of your street operations. There's 16 full-time employees in the general fund. So you have your salary and benefits there. We have maintenance of traffic signals every year included in this line, in this budget. And then material street repair, the $350,000 both years in 19 and 20 is shared with Fund 32. We've also got some more money in those commodities in Fund 32 that'll combine with this. But we also pay for the public transportation costs out of the general fund. As you can see, it's $272,750 in 2019 and $264,100 in 2020.
Why did we go down for 2020, just based on ridership, or what do we?
It's because we are doing some amenities in 2019. We're adding in the Hager edition, and also on Farmland Road, some shelters.
And then that's just that's the incremental difference,
Yeah.
otherwise that's a straight operating, okay.
It's pretty much, yeah.
To go to the next page. it just means that-
Oh, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
And you were asking about, Lindsay, you were asking about sidewalks and driveways. So material street repair, the street maintenance amount in 2019 is $300,000 and same in 2020. You have $20,000 allocated for sidewalk driveway cost share, and then also $30,000 for new community sidewalks.
Thank you.
So then Fund 32, this is what is a special revenue fund. It's called Special Traffic Way. It carried over $1,417,440 into 2019. The state highway funds coming in both years, $715,000. The signal funds at 16.9. The city maintains some signals that are on the highway that the KDOT pays us back for. We've been real fortunate to have the fund exchange, $236,500, both in 19 and 20, and then some miscellaneous revenues. So total revenues coming in is $968,750 both years. And then we can go into the expenses here on the next page. The contracted federal exchange in 19, we have $236,500 in there. You want to tell them about your $100,000 that we just recently paid out?
Yeah, we were under agreement with KDOT on their bypass project for the Spruce intersection. And so we just sent off $100,000 to them for our portion of that project.
And it came out of this line item, so anything left over in that could either be carried over into 8th Street if we need money, or some other project. Down below in the material street repair, 553007, you have $334,900 in 2019 and $277,100 in 2020. If you go to the next page, Sam can tell you what that breakdown is on that number.
This is where we pay for the crack sealing and street sealing. One thing that we did this year for street patching is we're anticipating quite a bit of potholes out there. I still think we're in pretty good shape, but we put an extra $100,000 in there so that we can address the potholes, and we're also going to have to seal some additional streets that were not scheduled, so that's the reason we upped that dollar amount in 19.
And then the other area is the new equipment streets. That's also on the breakdown on that same page, if you wanted to talk about that also, Sam.
We purchased a sweeper, and we have a 3-year lease purchase, and so by 2020 we'll have that paid off. That's the big expense. The buyback on the skid loader is normal, and then also we're just starting to see some equipment that we need to replace that we replaced back in the early 90s, like the pavement saw and those types of things for maintenance. So.
There is a CIP project also listed on that page that currently I think you're in discussions with, is the traffic signal at Fleming and Spruce, $185,000. That's actually funded in the electric fund. But if you decided to go a different route, not funded is the roundabout at $425,000.
Would it also be possible to take that money that was going to be maybe allocated over to 8th Street to pay for a roundabout? Is that, or can we not move that between those two funds?
We'd have to address the 8th Street funding first, but if there's any extra, yes, you could use those funds to that location.
And so the cost is because of, what, the increase is because of land acquisition, or you'd have to buy?
Some of that is land acquisition, but we'd have to almost reconstruct that whole intersection when we do that. So There is an expense, upfront expense for the roundabout, but in the long term, when you look at accidents and also the 24/7 that we have to do on traffic signals, I think it would pay off in the future, so.
The next area in special traffic way is street signs and markings. This is where we pay for maintenance on traffic signals and repair equipment, and then the supplies operations and supply shop are for actual new street signs. I think you probably have several that you're putting up this year?
Yes, we've made a big attempt to change out all of our street signs. We do have all of them in the warehouse. If we don't have them out on the street right now, they're in the warehouse. They're being put together, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have all new street signs in Garden City, so we're back to just normal maintenance at that time.
They look good, actually.
And then the last section in special traffic way is snow removal. We did have to adjust 2019 slightly up due to the storms this year. That brings our total expenses in 2019 at $1,013,950. And in 2020, we're doing a cash carryover into 2021 of $1,369,440, and that gives us total expenses of $2,340,990. I think your pages were incorrect, and I'll replace those. Yeah.
So the storm costed an additional how much, or all of the snow removal this year? Was it the 20? I see some in the salt and in the operations. What was the additional you had to?
The additional is due to the extra salt and sand. That we
Okay,
had
so
to
those
use.
are the two. Okay.
Yeah, most of our expenses are gonna be labor and fuel costs, and they're built into the normal budget. Only the repair to snow equipment and the material that we use are in that budget, or in that line item. And we'll be coming to you May 7th with a report on the snow.
Any other questions for Sam?
All right, thank you.
Fund 35 is workers' comp. We carried over $304,971 into 2019. The revenues come from city departments. It's $1,020 per employee per year on actual full-time employees. And then down below, we are under a premium with work comp. We previously were self-funded several years ago. So that premium amount for this year is $382,302. And in the other items for supply safety, we did increase that amount. We've really beefed up our safety programs with the employees, so they were needing more funding. I think Alan's here. I think she wanted to address maybe a few things in the safety area.
Not really anything new with the programs. I mean, we're still continuing to do our quarterly safety award recipients and then that annual award recipient, and then looking at just some new programs that we can implement technology-wise in that safety program. But any questions that you have for me?
I mean, I think that the safety is, I mean, that's saving us lots of money as a city, and I just was surprised. I mean, some of the awards seem a little bit small, and so, I mean, I don't know if that's a big incentive or not, but I mean, I don't know if it's something that we can encourage. I mean, the $250 for a whole year of safety, so I thought that was a little blow, but I know that, it takes a lot to really, in each of these departments.
You get a free lunch too.
Well, but they're saving, I mean, thousands of dollars. It really is. I mean, because one accident, I mean, it can devastate a department. So.
Sure, definitely, and we can bring that up to the safety committee and have them look at what those awards.
They seemed a little bit low.
Sure, definitely.
Could you give like a two-sentence explanation of why we went away from self-funding the workman's comp?
That happened in 2014, and it's just simply from that liability standpoint of paying all of those our own claims and not having any of that built in, and with going with the pool, I mean, there's that little bit of built-in safety net for us.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.
So we're, total expenses in 2019 are $405,500. We're carrying over $260,000 into 2020. We're budgeting the full fund, so total expenses are $621,000. Fund number 36 is Workers' Comp Reserve. This went along with the self-funding of work comp. We had to have a reserve fund. We still have a reserve fund because we're still paying claims on those old work comp cases. So as you can see in previous years, 56,000 in 18. We're just budgeting 100,000 and then 75,000 in 2020. One of these days, these claims will all go away, and then you'll have money to use elsewhere. Fund 50, Community Development. This is where we do small grants like the Emergency Shelter Grant. If we have an organization that they need a sponsor, they'll come to the city and we can sponsor them, and then we can have the grant in the city's name and pay out the organization. So we do have a little bit of an administrative fee that we get to keep for that, but otherwise it's a good way to use this fund. Fund number 52, Economic Development Fund, Loan Fund. We just heard from Great Plains Development. We have $450,340 that we carried over into 2019. Like he said, we do have 2 active loans, Estes and Robinson. TechVet is probably going to be moving out of that facility, so that payment will probably go away. We did budget for approved loans, and I hope we can spend it, of $284,000. And then the consultant fee is what we pay Great Plains, is $2,750. So total expenses in 2019 are $286,750. In 2020, we're budgeting the full fund at $256,500.
So where does that fee that we approved today, does that come out of this, the $3,750?
Yes, so that'll need to come up
Okay,
about
so
$1,000.
that's where that consultant fee.
Yeah, that's where it will come out of. Any questions? Getting close. Fund 53 is Project Development Fund. We set this fund up several years ago when we were anticipating the STAR bond. So we started putting the sales tax amount that would go away in the city's general fund into this fund. And we've used it in some very good ways. We set up the downtown project, and then we also have city incentive money that if we need money for projects that come in that need some city assistance, we can use that. But we carried over into 2019, $614,803. The special assessment project, 3060, and then the payment of special assessments, that's for the Eagle Street property that we did with Chapel. That's going to be probably ending here. You just extended it for another year at the first of this year. Then we have downtown project money in 2019 of $283,526, and then city capital project money at $70,700. We budgeted total expenses for 2019 at $376,233, carrying over $265,770, and we're budgeting the full fund. So we have $282,570 budgeted in expenses. Fund number 58, we set this fund up this year. The housing, Pershing Manor, they pay us a pilot payment, payment in lieu of taxes. And instead of putting that in our general fund and not really spending it on housing, we decided to set up a housing fund, and then when they come to us for repairs to Pershing Manor or their other facilities, we can use these funds for that.
We go back to the development fund right quick.
Sure.
Just as an FYI to all the commissioners, that we've rolled over the 117, which we just invested 12,000 into but for the following year we've zeroed out that account because of the STAR bond, right?
Well, not actually because of the STAR bond. We do have funds in there. If you want to reallocate
I'm just saying
any of that city capital project money,
right,
you can take that 100,000 and if you have a project for downtown and want to move it into that downtown line item, you have every
I think
opportunity.
we ought to keep it going.
And if you would like to move it, right now, we can.
I'm just saying, because that's all we're doing with the carryover.
Well,
There's
it'd
not,
be 283,000, isn't it? Less 12,000 today. we
no,
spent.
it was 117,
Oh, was
less
it?
the 12.
There's a couple of projects that have not received their payment
Right.
because their projects aren't done.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just for everybody's information. Okay.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to move that around in those line items if a opportunity presents itself. The last one is utility deposit, Fund 69. We take in utility deposits, and for 1 year, if they have good payment record, then we refund that customer account. So this is just a holding area for utility deposits with our customers. So, can I answer any other questions as far as budget goes?
Well, you gotta hit the road, don't you?
No, thanks for the extra, for making yourself available for questions.
I do have one other item on the agenda, if you don't mind taking a look at it.
Sure.
And that's item F. I'll let Matt have care of that.
We're just kind of.
Kind of took over too much space.
Thanks for letting me sit down.
You're welcome. Item 12F, the notice of submission filed with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB, through Electronic Municipal Market Access, otherwise known as EMMA, to report the event of the issuance of the STAR bonds. Melinda?
The city's continuing disclosure policy has in it, in the financial management guidelines, that calls for the following when this event would occur. The disclosure administrator shall file notice of the occurrence of any event or events with MSRB via EMMA with respect to any obligations to which the event or events apply in a timely manner, but not in excess of 10 business days after the occurrence of the event. The disclosure administrator shall provide notice of the event to MSRB through EMMA as required by the rule. The events to be disclosed are listed in Schedule 1. You'll have that's in your attachment of this policy. The disclosure administrator shall consult with legal counsel and update Schedule 1 if there are changes to the rule with respect to events that are to be reported. And then also, under reporting of events, not less than 3 business days after providing notice of the event to MSRB, the disclosure administrator shall provide a copy of the notice submission filed with MSRB to the governing body, along with written confirmation from EMMA that such notice submission was properly filed with MSRB through EMMA, as required by the rule, which confirmation shall be acknowledged at the next regular business meeting of the governing body, which is your meeting today. The alternatives are to acknowledge the receipt or to not acknowledge the receipt. Though the event notice is attached to this memorandum, our disclosure policy is also in there, and also the submission that we received that has been published. The reason this happens is when we do our normal GO bonds, that all gets taken care of with your official statement reporting. Since we did not have an official statement reporting, we have to disclose this event ourselves. And so that's what we are doing to keep in line with the SEC.
So we need a
Mayor,
motion.
I make a motion that we approve the notice filing the event notice with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board as required by the Securities and Exchange Commission rules, and noting that the event notice related to the STAR bonds was filed on April 4th, 2019, within the 10 days of the notice closing of the STAR bonds.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve, acknowledge the receipt of the notice. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and
Do we-
Commissioners,
Anybody want to take a short break?
If we could, if you don't mind, if, unless natural reasons why we need to stop right now. Item G, we've got somebody in the audience that's waited patiently through the meeting for that, so, do you mind?
No.
Okay, item G, the governing body is asked to consider and approve entering into a memorandum of understanding for the purpose of acquiring electrical distribution facilities from Wheatland Electric Cooperative. Mike?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Mr. McVeigh is here from Wheatland Electric, so he's been patiently waiting. We've worked with Mr. McVeigh and obviously the city attorney and others involved in this. What this is an MOU for you to consider to approve acquiring electrical distribution facilities from the Wheatland Electric Cooperative. Garden City receives its power supply through several different resources, which are managed by the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, KMEA. All of the power supply is delivered through the Southwest Power Pool's high voltage transmission system through Sunflower Power Corporation's system as well. And then it's delivered to substations owned by the Wheatland Electric Cooperative. And then Wheatland Electric, Garden City takes its power from those substations that Wheatland owns. At the present, the city pays Wheatland a local access charge to have the power delivered through these distribution facilities. These charges in 2018 totaled $535,000. Under the negotiated local access rate that was approved by the Kansas Corporation Commission after Garden City had challenged a higher rate, we negotiated that down to what it is today. And I might add, through these negotiations, Wheatland has agreed to keep those local access charges the same, assuming that you would authorize this and we would move forward. Otherwise, they did have the opportunity as of January 1 to go forward and file for a higher rate. The city, as you know, have been working through the SPP, the Southwest Power Pool, and we had developed other methods and estimated costs to connect directly to the Sunflower system, and we were in the design stage to have those done. These facilities would increase the capacity that Garden City would receive, and then it would have got us connected directly to the Sunflower transmission system. On the 30th day of July in 2018, Wheatland proposed two options to the city. We had made fully aware our AQ request to the SPP for different transmission access. We kept both Sunflower and Wheatland aware of that. In July 30th of 2018, Wheatland proposed two options to the city regarding access to the Sunflower system. One option was to lease Wheatland facilities to the city, and the other option was to sell the city some assets necessary to allow the city direct access to the Sunflower transmission system with increased capacity and with some of their distribution lines. These assets include the necessary substations and related equipment, distribution lines, and the property associated with them for Garden City to have access to this. And after a thorough review by staff and outside consultants, it was determined that purchasing the Wheatland facilities would be in the best long-term interest for the city. Sunflower had planned and is still planning to do considerable work in the Garden City South and Garden City North substations for their own needs prior to the city and Wheatland discussing this acquisition of some of Wheatland's property. Subsequently, the city has had direct conversations with Sunflower on how their proposed improvements would impact the city in acquiring these Wheatland facilities, and Sunflower has agreed to modify some of their work to better accommodate the city's acquisition of these facilities should they take place. So the MOU before you today is to consider an understanding that Wheatland has a continued interest in the sale of assets to the city and that the city has an ongoing interest in purchasing these facilities. Sunflower's participation in this MOU is because it owns certain bulk transmission facilities that the city will be connecting to, and that the city agrees to pay $50,000 for refinement in the design, engineering, and cost estimates of what this proposed construction, how it would impact the city during this acquisition of Wheatland's facilities. This cost cannot exceed $70,000 without the city's prior written approval. With the approval of this MOU and Exhibit B, which is attached, Sunflower, Wheatland, and the city will begin to work to develop an asset purchase agreement That will be brought before the governing body for consideration at that time. That asset purchase agreement will outline the costs of all of these different facilities, and then we would go from there. So we certainly would be coming back. This just indicates that your governing body is willing to continue to talk with Wheatland on acquiring their facilities, and they agree to continue to talk to sell them. And I might add that these negotiations have gone very well between Garden City, Wheatland, and Sunflower, and the alternatives is to approve the MOU or not approve the MOU, and we certainly recommend that you would approve this MOU. And I'll certainly answer any questions, and if Mr. McVeigh would like to speak, he certainly can do that as well.
No, I think you did a good job summarizing Mike.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding for the acquisition of electrical
Second.
distribution facilities.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the MOU for Wheatland Electric and Sunflower, I guess, in the city for asset purchase agreement. Any further discussion?
I really appreciate the work that's the detail, and the memorandum was very detailed. I appreciate the work that's been into this, and it really sounds like you're really honoring one another. I mean, the city and Wheatlands and Sunflower, right? You can tell it's really been a working partnership. So thank you to all who've worked on this memorandum. So.
Okay, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah. come around.
Item 12D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the goals and strategic objectives for 2019 through 2020, ratifying the work that was done at your most recent goal-setting retreat.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve the strategic goals as presented.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the goals and strategic objectives for 2019 to 2020. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a communications site option and land lease agreement with United Wireless Communications, Inc. Mike?
Yep, Mayor and Commission, I'm back again. This is a wireless communications, which we refer to as United, has an existing franchise with the city, and it has equipment located on our water tank located at 3rd and Mary. This lease agreement is to memorialize that United has equipment on that property of ours. They also have equipment on other water towers that the city owns. We could not find the agreement for this particular location, so we worked together certainly with the city attorney and their attorneys, and this new agreement was developed. The initial term would be for a 5-year period with 2 automatic 5-year renewals, unless United would choose 1-year renewals after the first 5-year period. You can either approve and authorize the mayor to sign this agreement or not. We recommend alternative 1, and United would pay the city $13,182.36 per year, due on the 15th day of January every year for this one location. And then a 5% increase will be added to that $13,000 sum should United agree to the next 5-year term. And certainly ask
Have they
any
been
questions.
paying this?
They've paid everything
Even
that
though
they
we didn't
have
have an agreement?
obligated to so far, yes.
Okay.
This will just get them current for that site.
Yeah,
We had an agreement, just
okay.
the parties couldn't find it. And how old was it?
Long time.
Okay.
Mayor, I make a motion, go ahead.
Oh, I just want, the fees have remained the same, and feel that's all appropriate. Okay, thank you.
I make a motion we approve the lease agreement with United Wireless Communications.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the lease agreement with United Wireless. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Item 12I is the consent agenda. If there isn't any items that you wish to remove and talk about separately, the appropriate motion would be to approve consent agenda items I-1 through I-5.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda I 1 through 5. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commission reports. Commissioner Burns, you're up.
Great, thank you. And I really enjoyed the pre-meeting today. I think it's always exciting when we talk about design of the city, planning, and the future appearance and the future functionality, which I think was really emphasized today, so I appreciated that. I had the opportunity, along with Commissioner Unruh, over the short lunch break to go to a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor and a roundtable at the hospital regarding Medicaid expansion. Alliance for a Healthy Kansas is going to be sponsoring a community forum with the Lieutenant Governor this evening at the classrooms at St. Catherine at 6 p.m. I would encourage folks to attend. Something that stood out to me as we were discussing things today with the Convention Visitors Bureau, and Commissioner Dick can tell me my statistics are not quite right because I'm going to extrapolate a bit here, and I know that this is not exact. But if we, she talked about a difference in workforce if hospitality and leisure jobs went away of about 6.5%, and that we were cited a $12 to $15 per hour wage without benefits. And she mentioned wanting to catch up with Kansas City, Kansas. I just took a quick look at the National U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which really quote at least a mean wage of about $23 to $24, at least in 2017 in that region. So we're behind there, but I think the bigger point is this is a job, and it's a fair amount of our workforce that is on an hourly without benefits, and they would fall into that gap of folks who don't qualify for Medicaid at the current time, but really are priced out of being able to even get subsidies on the exchange or purchase private health insurance. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Medicaid expansion in Kansas. And we really need to look at this as a community and a secure method of securing the future of our community members and people that are working really hard. So really, if you want to learn more about this issue, if you want to communicate your concerns or your opinion directly to the Lieutenant Governor, it's an amazing opportunity. So 6 o'clock, St. Catherine Hospital classrooms. Thank you.
Commissioner Sessions.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Commissioner Burns on the pre-meeting. Very good information. I'd like to again congratulate the Lee Richardson Zoo on their award. It's great to see. It's one of our crown jewels that we do have in our community, and we do have a lot of people, not only from the community visiting, but we have a lot of people that come outside of the community to come visit Lee Richardson Zoo. So congratulations to them. And that's all I've got.
Commissioner Dick, you're up.
I'd like to say the same things about the trails. It was really good to have the pre-meeting. Very good addition to our city to have the trails. It's also a good thing to work through. I would like to also maybe bring up that the downtown matrix might need a little bit of tweaking, just because we saw in this case where it was a pretty, to me it seemed like it was a pretty obvious case where it would be a good funding, but the matrix kind of didn't score out as high. So it might be a time to maybe bring it up and look at some of the implied things with the way the system is set up right now with that binary scoring system. The last thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank everybody who invests in Garden City. Like we saw with GC Investments, that's a large one. Also Max Miller with the downtown building. But I mean, really anybody who takes the time to improve the building that they're in, bathroom models and that kind of stuff. Those things are investments, not in the things that they own. But it's also a vote of trust in our city and our community that they feel like it's worth putting money into our community. So I'd like to thank everybody who puts those investments into our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Hunter.
So I also enjoyed the pre-meeting. Anytime you talk about prevention and active transportation, those are near and dear to my heart. And seeing that we do have options and that we as a community are really thinking ahead. You think about attracting people to Southwest Kansas and keeping them. Active transportation, walkability, bikeability, they're keys, especially to the upcoming generations. It was the Star Bond. I'm really excited. Just hearing about that and seeing some pictures, I know it's not what it's going to look like. I don't know what pickleball is, but all of us will
You need to
challenge you
play.
guys to those. Yeah, we'll play. We'll play that. Hopefully I can beat you at that. I was able to attend with Commissioner Burns the roundtable at St. Catherine's. I really appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's willingness to come out to our area. And from Topeka, it's hard to get people out here to really recognize, but was very complimentary of our area and also of our hospital system. I think they're doing an excellent job. The award, the Convention and Visitors Bureau does an incredible job. I have the opportunity. I've been the chairperson before. I now just sit on the board, but I'll tell you, they are really working to bring more people in. And the Star Bond, the Sports of the World Complex, will be, as all of us know, something that really draws lots of dollars and hopefully that will change the wages and maybe that will drive that up and how that works and how we do that. So, but no, I really appreciate the budget stuff. It's all the staff doing all the work they do. I know it takes a lot of time, but the detail that's put into it really is helpful. Thank you for being conscientious and helping all of us to make Garden City great.
One thing I'd like to comment on is that Star Bond, it seems like anything that we can do to bring kids to Garden City, they bring their parents too. And they'll travel across the state to watch their kids play basketball, but they won't come out here for a convention. It's too far. And I think that anything we can do in that sports arena will really help us down the road, and that's one good thing. Just to update you, I've been making my rounds to different businesses and existing businesses, and I've contacted about 25 businesses so far, and just tell them I appreciate their being in Garden City and being a part of our city, whether it's downtown or wherever. So most of them are shocked when I walk in, give them a card and a financial profile, but they really appreciate it because we haven't done that for a while. Leave your budget books here so they can update them for the next meeting. So that's all I have. Thank you. Long meeting. Anything else? We're adjourned. All right.
Oh, okay. Each hand